Hi everyone, I hope you're well. Thanks for clicking on the video. It's the day after UFC 279. We had a night of some wild fights. Of course, like about an hour after I uploaded my fight breakdowns, the fight switched up completely, right? The whole event just changed in a blink of an eye, all due to fucking Khamzat Chimaev's unprofessionalism. He weighed in at like 178.5 pounds, which is, of course, absolutely absurd. And because of that, all of the fights got switched up, right? But thankfully, the MMA gods were shining upon us, I suppose, right? Because we've ended up with an improved card, actually. We ended up with Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz in the main event. We had Khamzat and Kevin Holland in the co-main. And the Leech, the true G that he is, ended up fighting D-Rod, right? Who weighed in 10 pounds heavier than him on weigh-in day, right? So nobody's been screwed over more than the Leech in the last 24 hours, right? He rocks up to the press conference in his fresh ass suit looking amazing. It gets cancelled. His fight with a massive star in Tony Ferguson gets ruined because of Khamzat missing weight, and now he has to end up fighting a guy called D-Rod, you know, who weighed 10 pounds more than him and is a killer, an undefeated killer, and he goes out there and puts on one of the best performances. The crowd didn't like it, but he went out there and beat D-Rod up. Look at D-Rod here. He knew he was defeated, right? And it was taken away from him in a split decision. Somehow a judge, two of the three judges gave that fight to D-Rod. That's an absolute travesty, so I hope to God the UFC takes care of the Leech, because I know Dana in the press conference afterwards said that he thought the Leech won that fight, and he took a fight against the guy to begin with, which is just absolutely gangster, so pay that man. Nobody from the Switcheroo 6 got screwed over more than the Leech, right? Like, everybody else ended up with somewhat favourable matchups, other than Kevin Holland, I suppose, but at least he got the 5 rounds that he asked for. The Leech got screwed at every turn. So let's talk about the co-main, right? We had Khamzat Chimaev versus Kevin Holland. I feel foolish for coming into this fight thinking it would be competitive. Khamzat just went out there and does what he does, right? He just stormed through Kevin Holland, shot a takedown within 2 seconds. It looked as though Kevin Holland was maybe trying to, get a touch of glove, and right as that happened, Khamzat just shot like an absolute bat out of hell. Kevin Holland defended better than I had expected, frankly. Like, he was good in the transitions, he was rolling, he was constantly moving, but Khamzat is just too much, man. That guy is an absolute grizzly bear. He just gets on top of people and they just don't know what to do. And don't get it twisted, Kevin Holland, he's, although not the best wrestler, he's a black belt under Travis Lutter, so he's got a slick submission game, and he defended the Darce choke well, but he just couldn't keep Khamzat off of him, and after a while he just had no choice but to tap. So if you had your money on Khamzat there, well played, okay? Fuck me for going with the underdog, right? And that brings us to the main event, right? El Kukuri, Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. I think this was everything we had hoped for in a lot of ways. I came into this fight saying, if you watch my breakdown of Tony versus the Leech, before that fight had got scrapped, I came in saying, I hope to God Tony hasn't been sparring off of that brutal knockout. It was just 3 months ago, and you could tell, he even said in the press conference afterwards, that he has barely been sparring, and that was super evident. Whenever Nate Diaz would clip him even a little bit, he would be turning his back to him. You could tell that he wasn't used to rolling with the punches a lot, because he clearly, like he said, hasn't been sparring much. But that was the best thing for his chin, because it was holding up in there. But if that was against the Leech, Tony Ferguson would have been in trouble. And on the flip side of that coin for Nate Diaz, right, he is so lucky that he wasn't in there with Khamzat, because Khamzat would have steamrolled for him. Nate Diaz didn't really even show up for this fight, in my opinion, right? He came in out of shape, right? If you compare the shape he's in for this fight compared to Leon Edwards when he was about to fight him, it's night and day. And you hear about some of the things he was saying leading up to this fight about, man, I'm done preparing, come and beat me, all of this. I think it's fair to say that he didn't come in with the best mindset. And when he got switched up on him last minute from Khamzat to Tony Ferguson, I think he had like a change of mindset where he thought, man, this is a much more winnable fight. But he just wasn't prepared for it, right? So there was moments in the fight where he was literally, Nate Diaz, turning around from Tony Ferguson and putting his hands on the top of the cage for like a breath, and like putting his hands on his knees. It was strange, and he was kind of making it look like, I don't know, like some horseplay or something, like he was kind of talking shit, but it was clear to me at least that he was tired early on in that fight, which is something we're not used to seeing from Nate Diaz. He was getting his leg chewed apart by Tony Ferguson, which we're used to seeing if you like a Nate Diaz fight. Always gets his leg torn apart, but thankfully he's ended up fighting Tony Ferguson, who's in the twilight of his career. He's not as sharp as he once was, right? He's on a 4-fight losing skid coming into this fight. I have to reiterate, if he was in there with Khamzat, Diaz would have been in big trouble, even more so than like what we had realised, which was, we already thought that Diaz was fucked, but after this performance, he would have been even more fucked than we had first thought, right? We'd have seen Nate Diaz get finished, I believe. I'm glad though that we got to see this fight instead, because what we got was two legends going in there, both in the twilight of their career, right? Both on the tail end, but they both got to go out there and display grit, heart. They both took a beating, right? Even though Nate Diaz didn't get cut, I've seen a lot of this on Twitter about Tony Ferguson, like, oh, he couldn't even cut Nate Diaz, he has to retire, because if Nate Diaz doesn't get cut in a fight, then you must suck. But dude, look at his legs, man. Like, he was chomping down his legs like he owed him money, you know what I mean? Just because the beating isn't on Nate's face. I'm telling you right now, he took a beating in that fight. Shots to the body that Tony was throwing as well, like, they were landing nicely, man, I'm telling you. And that's probably a big reason as to why Nate was as tired as he was too, right? Because El Kukuri was going to the body. Unfortunately, for some bizarre reason, Tony's corner at the end of the third round told him to shoot for a takedown. Nate Diaz has been preparing for Khamzat Chimaev. You don't think he's been getting ready for someone to shoot takedowns on him? You know what I mean? So Tony shoots for this takedown, and Nate Diaz is slick off his back, man. So he throws up a guillotine straight away, his patented guillotine that he's caught so many people with prior, and he gets the choke with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left of the fight of the round. 2:09. How gangster is that? That is, you can't tell me that wasn't just made to be, right? The MMA gods have truly had their touch on this weekend, right? Like, it's kind of crazy, all the things that have happened. And the thing I enjoyed seeing more than anything is Nate Diaz getting the fairy tale ending to his UFC career that he deserved. And I love how much Dana was hating it in the press conference afterwards. Like, it was clear as day, Dana was not happy, right? And that just makes me enjoy the moment even more. So I hope Nate Diaz goes out there, makes a fuck ton of money, beats up Jake Paul, that would be sweet, and then maybe even comes back to the UFC for the trilogy fight against Conor. As for Tony, I think it's time for Tony to hang up the gloves, you know what I mean? He is so lucky he wasn't in there with the Leech tonight, or any other ranked opponent at welterweight. It's clear that he can't take punches like he used to, because, you know, Nate Diaz was clipping him, and Nate Diaz doesn't clip people like that on the feet, you know what I mean? So I don't think he needs to take any more punishment. He's had an amazing career, he's a legend, it's time to hang him up. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel. If you disagreed with anything I had to say, please leave a comment. I'd love to talk to you about it. And yeah, thanks guys.